You're welcome. All right, guys, welcome. Glad to have you here today. So today we're going to talk about pulling comps, figuring out what properties are worth. I think that's an important skill to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very important. So when are we going to use it?
When they wanna talk to you about listing their house.
That's one time. When's the other time we're going to use it?
When somebody wants to put an offer.
When somebody wants to put an offer. How do we know if it's a good offer or not?
Hi there.
Okay.
As you know, FMLS has been transitioning Remind
That's
Docs
funny.
Plus
Yep,
as
get
a
it all
replacement
stopped.
for our docs for more than a year.
Hold on, I'm trying to get the volume down. See, this is why you're millennial in my life. My kids are
Your
growing up.
FMLS team has been hard at
There
work.
should be a button right
Got
here.
it, got it.
Okay. Very good. Alright. So, but at the start of every conversation, about comparative market analysis of property values, the conversation I want to have with you first is I want you to consider two different things and how they're related to each other, okay? And the first one of those is value. And the second one is price, okay? So my question for you is, what do value and price have to do with each other?
Appraisals.
Just in general, don't even think real estate. What's the difference between value and price?
The higher the value, the higher the price.
Well, typically. So, but what's the difference?
Value is what it's worth.
Okay,
Price is what it costs.
well, not necessarily, it's what
Somebody's willing to pay.
asking for.
Oh.
It's not what somebody's willing to pay for. So, and to paint the example, so I've got a book here, right? Little scholastic reader for Cares for Kids. What would you guess the value of this book is?
$1.
I'd say $4.95.
Okay, $4.95, and you're probably about right. How do we know it's worth $4.95? Because people buy it for $4.95 all the time, right? It's worth $4.95. That's gonna be the value, okay? Could I list this for sale on eBay for $1.5 million?
Yes.
Yes. That would be the price. So, my question is, what do price and value have to do with each other? Nothing. Nothing at all to do with each other. Okay? And where that's important is when you're representing the buyer, and we talk about the importance of being able to pull comps. We know what the price is, that's what they've listed it as, but when we go to make an offer, we need to know what the value is, okay? We don't wanna base our offer off of price, we wanna base it off of value. Let me give you two scenarios. Let's say somebody has a home listed for $350,000, okay? And you go out and saw it, your client loves it, they wanna put it in an offer. What's a reasonable offer to make?
I don't know.
You don't know until we pull comps and know what the value is. Because if it's only worth $300,000, but they have it priced at $350,000, is $350,000 a good offer price? No.
Sorry.
We have our client offering $50,000 more than what the home is worth, okay? And the reverse is true. Let's say that the value of the home was $400,000, okay? But it's priced at $350,000. Is $350,000 a good offer?
I think so.
Well, how likely is your client to win the offer?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Not, because what's gonna happen?
they're gonna be saying, oh no, that's way too low.
No,
Well, multiple offer situations.
you're gonna be in a multiple
Yeah.
offer situation. If a home's on the market at a great value, you're gonna have lots of people competing to buy it. And in today's market, do we have buyers offering more than list price?
Yes.
Yeah, regularly, okay? So it becomes an issue of value. And so with your clients, both on the buy side and the list side, we need to get used to having two different conversations with them. One of those is gonna be a price conversation, one of those is going to be a value conversation, okay? And so when we're talking with our sellers, and we've looked at the market information, and we've said that the market looks like your home is worth this is its value, okay? Where do you think we should price it to get the best results?
At the CMA, the market value?
At market value is where we would like to list it at, okay? But where does the seller often want to list at?
Higher?
Higher, okay? Yeah, we've agreed that your home is worth $330,000. And they say, well, can we put it on the market for $360 and see what happens? You know, well, I can tell you what's gonna happen. You know, it's gonna sit there, you know, nobody's gonna respond. And so those are two different conversations, okay? Another situation that comes up, your home is worth $300,000. We've pulled the comps and we've seen that there's several listings that have sold in the last year that are very similar to yours for $300,000. And everything tells us your home's worth $300,000, okay? Our instinct would be, let's price it at $300,000, okay? But your client is desperate. They need that house sold in the next 30 days. And their neighbor 3 doors down, who has the same house and the same floor plan, just listed theirs for $280 because they're desperate.
275?
Yeah. So again, it's worth $300, but if we need to sell it fast, we need to have a pricing conversation that we need to do something different, okay? So we're always having two conversations, all right? But the one that we're talking about today is the value conversation, okay? We can talk about pricing strategies a little bit later, but we wanna talk about value. So when we talk about value in real estate, okay, what would be a really good definition of the value of a home? How would we know what the value is?
The price a willing buyer, a willing and able buyer is, whatever, a price,
That's good.
the price, a willing
A willing buyer
is
would pay a willing seller,
right?
okay? That's our definition of value. So what's our best indication of what a willing buyer will pay and a willing seller would accept? Comps, okay? And that's the phrase that we use, okay? But I want to expand that a little bit and say when we're trying to figure out what the value is, what we want to look at is recent sales of similar property. That's gonna be our best way to figure out what the value of a property is. So let's talk about each of these words for just a second. So first off, we're talking about recent, okay? What do we mean by recent?
Within the last 6 months?
6 months is good, okay?
year.
An appraiser will go back up to a year, okay? But when an appraiser looks to value a property, they're gonna give more weight to the most recent comps. So, but very often when I go looking for them, I may not have enough data. I may go look in the last 6 months and there's only been one sale. You know, that's not enough for me to have a good comparison and feel confident in that valuation. So I ideally wanna have 4 or 5 properties for me to compare against to be really confident in my recommendation. So recent, we're looking up to a year back, okay? Now, when we go look at that up to a year back, don't look at the sales date, look at the list date, okay? Or if you're gonna look at the sales date, the thing I would, up to a year, I'm gonna put list, or, up to 9 months, for sold. Okay? And I only wanna look at sold properties, but what I'm meaning here is If an appraiser is gonna only go back a year and look at sold properties over the last year, well, I'm meeting with you today to get your home listed, okay? We may have to do a little bit of work to get it ready. We're gonna put it on the market, we're gonna start having our showings, then we're gonna get under contract, we're gonna go through our due diligence, and then the appraiser's gonna come out, okay? Well, how long transpired between today and when the appraiser comes out? Could be 30, 60, 90 days, right? Okay? If I go and look a year back at the solds, by the time that appraiser comes and looks, what happened to that comp
it's
that I was
off.
using? It falls off.
Okay.
So that's the reason I say 9 months is a really good time period to look back, okay? The next word in here, sales, okay? So with the sales, this is not pending, okay? Meaning it's not the ones that are under contract, okay? This is not my actives, okay? This is strictly my solds, okay? This is for the value conversation, okay? The pendings and the actives are good for my pricing conversation, okay? Not good for my value. Actives are who's my competition in the marketplace right now. And I may want to choose my price. Do I want to be priced better than my competitor or similar to my competitor, or I'm willing to spend a little bit of extra time. I'm okay being a little bit more than my competitor. That's a pricing conversation, not a value conversation. Does that make sense? Okay. Now with my pendings can be valuable and can be part of the value conversation, but you just have to use caution, okay? And what I mean by that is, I put a house on the market for $300,000, and it's been on the market for 6 months, and now it's under contract. Do I have any good sense of what price it's under contract for? No, okay? But I put it on the market for $300,000 and it went under contract in 3 days. What could I probably assume about?
It was priced right.
It was probably priced right. My sales price would probably be real close to that 300. I'm not gonna give it as much weight as my solds, but that's a good indicator that somebody out there was willing, somebody that's gonna buy my house was looking at a $300,000 house and put an offer on it very quickly. And that seller it was close enough to what the seller wanted that the seller was happy. 6 months down the road, that seller may be like, fine, I'll take 265, you know. But you list it for 300,000 today, are you gonna take 265 tomorrow? No. Okay. Which brings us to the last word that I want us to talk about, and that's similar. Because this is where things get a little more subjective and maybe not quite so clear, but these are the things we have to take into consideration. So, when we are comparing or looking for similar properties, because remember our best indication of value is recent sales of similar properties. What do we mean by similar? Okay, and I've got 4 things that I want you guys to consider, and these are in order of importance, okay? So the number one thing to consider when we talk about similar, and you've heard it your whole life, okay? Real estate is all about location, location, location. So this is gonna be location as number 1, okay? If we were to pick up a $150,000 house over in Monroe and take it out and drop it on the beach in LA, is it still worth $150,000? No, okay? That makes a big, big difference in the price, okay? And typically when we're talking about location, we're talking geography, okay? We want houses that are very close to it, okay? So this could be in the same neighborhood, this could be within a half a mile, this could be within, how far will an appraiser typically go to look at a property?
Oh, about to know?
typically under a mile, okay? But they're only gonna go that far if they can't find enough information closer to that, okay? If there's enough other comps in the neighborhood, they're not gonna go looking outside the neighborhood, okay? But you look in the neighborhood and there's not enough, well, then we're gonna go look at a quarter mile, and then we're gonna look at a half mile, and we're gonna look at a mile, until we get enough data for us to make a good assessment, okay? So we're talking typically a location, and we're looking at going a mile, but understand location's not just geography, okay? Can you, in a neighborhood, okay, think of location now, right? In a neighborhood, could my house right here and Shelley's house across the street from me, okay, one house over, could we be in a different county?
Absolutely.
Could we be in a different tax system, a different school system, okay? And when I go into that 1 mile, keep in mind, I could still be in the same county and the same, school system, but this house has to pay city taxes. I only have to pay county taxes, okay? That's all part of location, right? Okay? I'm within a mile, but my house sits next to a lake, and Lisa's house sits next to the Walmart parking lot. Okay? Which one do you think's worth more? The one next to the lake, okay? So keep in mind, location is more than just geography. You can't just go draw a half-mile circle every time and know that these are all good comps for the property. You have to look a little bit deeper, okay? So what's gonna be our second most important thing that we wanna look at? Square footage, okay? So size, okay? And a couple of things to keep in mind with that is when we're comparing size of properties, okay? Appraisers give more value to above grade square footage than below grade square footage. You can have the nicest finished basement, but it's never gonna be as worth as much as the same square footage not in the basement, okay? So I've got a house that's 1,000 square foot above grade and 1,000 square foot, in the basement, all nicely finished out. And I've got a house that's 2,000 square feet, no basement. The house with 2,000 square feet, no basement is gonna be worth more than the 1,000. Does that make sense? Even though it's the same living space, okay? And they're gonna adjust that differently from appraiser to appraiser, okay? What I've been seeing here commonly is that they generally, finished basement space worth about 30% of what above grade space is, okay? So, but what an appraiser wants to do, because appraisers don't wanna make a lot of adjustments, okay? This house is a little bit bigger, so I've gotta subtract some off of that price. This one has a basement, this one doesn't, so I've gotta add some value over here. They don't like having to tweak the adjustments. In a perfect world, they would love to find the exact same house in the exact same neighborhood and make those comparisons. So when you're looking for comps, ideally we would love to find slab houses, comps that are slabs. When we have a basement house, we wanna find basement comps, okay? If we have to make the adjustments, we will if there's not enough data there, but we'd rather be comparing same to same. Does that make sense? Okay. Third one, what do we have down here? You're taking this class before Lenore. What was number 3?
As you remember, square footage, location, see, I gave you 2 of the 4.
So, build quality.
Yeah, build it.
Okay. So, this house has beautiful trim, it's got granite countertops, stained cabinets, tile bathrooms, tile kitchen. This house over here has, white Home Depot cabinets, laminate countertops, linoleum flooring. Same neighborhood, same square footage, is one of those more desirable than the other? Yeah, because of how it was built, okay? Now, what's my last one gonna be? So, me and Lisa own the same house. Same neighborhood, same size, same builder, built it exactly the same. We've lived there for 10 years, both of us. Our houses work the same.
It depends on deterioration or what, how do you do it?
That's it. Not
Condition.
deterioration, but condition, okay? Lisa's a clean freak. She's got the house immaculate, not a stain on the floor, fresh paint on the walls. She's done all of her preventative maintenance. Her gutters are me. I've got trees growing out of my gutters. You know, there's handprints going up the hallway where the kids want to run their hands on. Which one's going to be worth more? Lisa's is, okay? So that's where we're looking at condition, okay? But this is in order from most influential to least influential, okay? In terms of price. All right. So now that we know that we're comparing, okay? Now, and what we're comparing, now we can start going to look for comps, okay? But if I want to compare A to B, what do I need to know first? A is the subject, right here. Okay. What's the first thing I need to know? Well, is B, does B look like A?
Description?
Location.
Well, just anything. Anything. I wanna go find me 3 cars that look like mine.
What kind of car do you have?
You need to know about the subject property first, right? So that's where we're gonna start, is before I can go start looking for comps, I need to know everything I can know about the subject property.
Okay.
So let's talk about what does that look like? What are the places I can go to find out more about the property? Because I answered an internet ad. I got a referral from a friend. Somebody that I work with is interested in listing their house. And I've got an appointment Friday to go meet with them. Okay? What do I know about their house? Nothing. So how am I gonna pull comps when I don't know anything about their property? Does that make sense? Okay? So let's first do our research on that property. So anytime you wanna know anything about anything, where's the first place you go look?
The internet.
We're on the internet.
Zillow, most people go to
Zillow? She
A
said,
lot of
You-
people go to
You go to Zillow to get a good chicken tetrazzini recipe?
I know.
No. Where's the first place you go? Google. Right. I already got it pulled up for you.
Okay.
The secret is up on the board.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So we're gonna start with Google.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So does somebody have a property that they're getting ready to list or about to make an offer on a property, anything? No, nobody in the works? Okay. I'm trying to think of so let's do one that I recently sold. So 347 Chip Road. There we go. 347 Chip Road, Stone Mountain, okay? So let's say that they wanted to sell their property, okay? And they had called me because they knew I was the one that listed it for the last owner. So I'm gonna Google the address of the property and I'm a right clicker. So I'm gonna open up Zillow. So Zillow is one of the places that I'm gonna go look, okay? But I started at Google, right? But Zillow is one of the places that I wanna take a look. Why do I wanna look at Zillow?
Is everybody else is?
Cause my client's going to. Yeah, I need to be prepared for that conversation. I start looking for comps and I find that the property is worth $250, but Zillow said it's worth $280. Do you think that might come up in conversation at the listing appointment? Yeah, I need to make sure I've got the data to support my judgment, not what Zillow said. And if Zillow said it was worth $220 and I'm thinking $250, maybe I wanna double check. I'm probably right, but let's just double check and make sure I'm not missing something.
I didn't realize, I have an address, but it's in Columbus.
Okay, I'm not gonna do well for Columbus. I don't even know if we really have everything in Columbus, MLS, cause they have their own MLS
Okay.
in Columbus, so
Alright, yeah.
I don't know how widely used Georgia MLS is over there. I
I
know
got
I'll
it
find
off
it.
of Georgia MLS, I have a client in Columbus.
No, which is fantastic. I just don't know, when I go looking for comps, I don't know that I'm gonna find everything that I need for that. Okay? So, I'm gonna pull that up. I'm also going to open up the map. And if they already had a street view, I would open that up. Okay? And coincidentally, they don't have one in here, a street view. But you can see, you guys know how street view works? Where you can just drag the little guy and drop him and take a look around and see what's in here, okay? So, one of the things I wanna point out to you, the street view can be absolutely fantastic, okay? In getting to know a neighborhood, but pay attention down here, so you'll see this image was captured February 2017, okay? You'll go into some neighborhoods, it'll be 2020. Well, this is a 2020 picture of the property in the neighborhood. I'm pretty sure that that's still what that neighborhood looks like, that's what that house looks like, right? If it's 2017, okay, might have changed a little bit, and like looking here, I'm probably don't have a whole lot of confidence that the house still looks this good, right? Even though it's only been 3 years, it may have deteriorated a little bit, because I look at what all they have in their carport, I look at the fact that they've got broken pickets on their fence, and, you know, this doesn't necessarily look like the best neighborhood. So it may have seen some more deterioration. Might not have. Somebody could have come in and completely revamped this property, but I'm a little suspect. Does that make sense? If this were 2012, I really don't know what it looks like. Okay, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right. And then coming back and looking at the overhead view, okay, so there's my property right here, okay? I can gather a lot of information from the map, okay, in learning about my property. So one, I see, this is a fairly small neighborhood, right? And as I zoom in, one of the things I love that Google does for us, it breaks it down, and it shows me, you know, in this neighborhood, we've got what, 10, 20, maybe 30 homes in that neighborhood, okay? Somebody moves every 10 years. I'm probably only gonna have 3 houses in here that have sold in the last year, maybe. Am I likely to get enough data just from the neighborhood? Probably not, unless those 3 happen to be all good comps from my property, and that's usually not how it works. So I may have to look a little farther out. And one of the things that's nice about the map is it lets me see where am I in relation to main roads, business sections, so I know what to compare it to. So as I'm looking at this particular map, you know, I may be saying, okay, well, I'm kind of guessing that everything maybe in this area right here is gonna be my potential good comps for that property. So I kind of get a sneak peek. Before I even go in MLS and I've started looking, I'm kind of getting a sense of what's going on around it. Does that make sense? I can also go in and take a look at the satellite view. And when I look at the satellite view, do you guys see this line right here? You know what that line is, or this line right here?
That's the pole.
That's your utility lines, okay? Are there people that get wigged out and freaked out living next to power lines?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see that you can actually see the power lines that are in here? Okay, now, noticing something like this, or the fact that it's next to a Walmart parking lot, or it's next to a rock quarry or transit station or something like that, one of the things to keep in mind is if I'm pulling comps, well, I don't adjust my pricing for the fact that it's on the utility lines if I'm pulling the right comps, okay? Because if I'm looking at what did these houses sell for,
Yeah.
well, the adjustment for that's already built in. Because somebody was willing to pay this for this house already on the power lines. But if I'm having to compare a property over here on the power lines to a property over here, well, that one probably has, you know, a little notch for being on the power lines versus this one. Does that make sense? Okay. But looking at this map view does a lot of cool stuff for me. Because I can see where my big industrial areas are to see if I back up to an industrial area. It also gives me a good sense of the neighborhood. So as I zoom in, I can start seeing, what do the roofs look like in this neighborhood? What do the yards look like? And you'll look, this image, 2020, okay? So even though I'm not seeing the house and I'm looking at it from a satellite, I can get some sense of how good a condition is that house in. And they don't have it on this, you probably do, because this computer's a little bit older. If you had the new Google on here, Google will have a 3D view right here, and you click on 3D, and what it does is it'll shift it over to like a 20-degree angle from the house, and you'll be looking at it instead of straight down, you're kind of looking at it like this. So you can get a sense of what does the front of the house look like, the side, the back, and you just rotate around and you can look at the house from all sides, okay? It's not like the street view, it was still taken from, 8,000 feet above us, but it gives you another vantage point on that. Does that make sense? All right. Where else might I go to look for information about our subject property?
I'm thinking tax records,
Yep.
courthouse.
And where do I go for my tax records? Or Georgia MLS. Yeah. And what else might I find at Georgia MLS and FMLS?
The legal description?
I'm gonna find the legal description, but I'm not worried about filling out my paperwork right now. What am I trying to do right now? Find the value.
Okay.
Okay? What have I not seen yet in anything I've looked at?
Loan information, payoff information,
Yeah, and what the payoff is on a property may be part of the pricing
okay.
consideration, but how much I owe on my house, does it have any bearing on what my house is worth?
No.
No. Well, I want you to buy my house for $400,000 because that's what my loan is. No, it didn't work that way, right? I just have, so I just want you to, because you will have clients that
Right.
will tell you, I need to make this much on the house and I owe this much on the loan, which means we need to sell it for this. That's not how pricing works, okay? Have you seen a picture of the house yet? No. Okay, so often Zillow will have pictures of the house, but I can also go looking for past listings of the house. Now, one of the reasons that I do like Zillow for pictures, I'm still looking at Georgia MLS, but if the property was ever listed for rent on Craigslist or someplace like that, or even if the owner put it up on Zillow, you'll have more recent pictures on Zillow from when it was a rental than you're gonna have in Georgia MLS from when the property was last bought or sold. Okay. So there's some good information that's in there, okay? So, any place else I can really go for information? That's probably all the right places to go, okay? So let's go ahead and go into Paragon. And what we're gonna do today, you can do either in Georgia MLS or FMLS. I happen to personally prefer Georgia MLS. You figure out what works best for you, okay? I will say that if we're looking for content, because I use them both, I have to use them both. As you move closer to Atlanta, FMLS will have higher usage. As you go away from Atlanta, it will have lesser use, okay? And up until just a couple of years ago, Gwinnett County was the farthest county headed east that was required that their their properties be listed in FMLS if you belong to FMLS. So a lot of brokers in Walton County don't belong to FMLS, or even if they did belong to it, they didn't list it in FMLS up until a couple of years ago, okay? So you're not always gonna have a lot of the back history that's in there, and you won't necessarily find all the same comps, because, they just don't belong. Does that make sense? Okay. So one of the things I can do is I can just come over here to my quick search, and I can go pull up that property. I'm gonna look for 347 Chip Road, and when I use the quick search, it'll go look for every single time that property has ever been listed.
Where's the quick search at?
Where's Paragon? I'm on Georgia, I use that, I've never been on Georgia MLS. I've always used FMLS.
I
So-
can go,
Go to GAMLS.com,
Got it.
log on,
Got it.
and then you should see Paragon as one of the
Oh, I should
icons
log
that's
in
right
first.
there.
I don't even
Or
know.
go to Tools, and from the drop down under Tools, you'll find Georgia MLS.
oh, I see
Okay.
quick search.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord, have
right there on
mercy.
the home page on the left-hand side, so put the house number in, and then put the address. And you'll see this property's been listed 4 times over the years. Okay, does everybody see that?
I'm looking at your stuff. I didn't bring it up on the.
I don't even know my password.
Why does it say minimum right there?
Because we set the minimum maximum, where is that?
I never.
Yes.
I-
Okay. So, and which of these listings do I potentially care about? You know, really only the most recent one, right? Okay, so I would open up the most recent one. And I'm gonna take a look, and I can certainly go through and read all the descriptions for the property down here. So immaculate and well-maintained smoke rise home in Parkview School District. This home was entirely remodeled in 2016, 27, and feels like a new home. You know, it's got all of the description in there. Up here, I've got all of my pictures, so I can go through and look at all the details and see how does this property look back then. Now, this particular listing was, what, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago? List date, March 2020. This was 6 months ago, 7 months ago. So not the best one to pull up, because are they likely to be selling the house now?
Oh, this was April? No.
Yeah, this is one that I listed and sold. So I listed it in March, okay? Was on the market for 14 days and sold for $10,000 over list price with $5,000 seller's contributions. Okay.
Wow.
So, but I now have this property to go look for comps for, okay? And I know information about it right here. I can go pull up from here the tax data by clicking on the little yellow icon with the house, okay? And that will go straight to the tax report for that property. I don't even have to do anything else, okay?
Alright, Trish, can you slow down a little? Alright, go back.
Well, we've only got 15 more minutes, so
Yellow icon?
the little yellow icon right there. And if you hover over these icons, it will tell you what they are,
Okay.
okay? So it's the CRS tax data. If I could not find a listing, okay, I've done my quick search and it says no information found, okay? That means that in the last 10 years, the property was never listed, okay? I still wanna look at the tax data. So I would come up here and I would go to tax and click on CRS tax data, and then I would go search for that property. So 347, and you'll see as I start typing it, it'll pull up 347 Chip Road, and it will take me to the same place that that icon took me to,
Okay.
okay? So, if I can't find it with the icon, this is how I can get there. Alright, so as I take a look, I've got the square footage, okay? And I wanna verify that, okay? Cause what was number 2 on our list was size, right? Okay, so that tells my square feet. This is my above grade square feet, okay? And as I scroll down, I'll see the sales history, okay? Well, this one just having sold in April, not as big of a deal. Well, if I were trying to sell it today, this would be a big deal. What would be the concern if he just bought this home in April and now he's trying to sell it today? Well, not necessarily. I mean, he could have lost his job, he could have gotten a promotion, he could have gotten married. There's lots of reasons why he may want to sell it. But has he built up a lot of equity in the house?
No.
No. So we go to list this property today with him having just sold it or just bought it, 7, 8 months ago. Do we think the price has probably gone up much in the last 8 months?
Not really.
In this market yet?
In this market, it may have gone up a little bit, but it's not like it's gonna have gone up to 400,000 from 350. Maybe we could get 360 for it, but what's it gonna cost him to sell it?
Right.
About 10%. So if we can't sell this for 385 or more, what's he gonna be doing at the closing table?
Writing a check.
Writing a check, okay? Whereas, let's say that he had bought it for $75,000 back in 2016,
Wow.
do you think that he may be really happy with me telling him that we can sell it for 360?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so take a look at that, and then for those other square footages, keep scrolling down, cause they've got the property characteristics down here. So you'll see this is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, this was built in the late 80s, and you'll see it's got an unfinished basement, 1576. So now I know it has a basement, okay, and it's a full basement, and then back up at the top, I had my other square footage, which was 2564, okay? So at this point, I've gathered all the information I have on this particular property, okay? Now, if I were looking to make an offer on this house, if this were a listed house, the one other place that I would go to look is on the listing. And I didn't do it. But there's another icon here that's a D, that if anybody's uploaded any documents to it, if there's a seller's property disclosure or community association disclosure, take a look at those too, okay? See what they're telling us about the house before we write our offer on it, okay? Because if they're telling us in the seller's property disclosure that the AC system doesn't work and the roof is 25 years old, might that influence what we want to offer for the property?
Absolutely.
Do you think that may change what the appraisal may look like for the property? Yeah. Okay. So now I've gathered all my information. I know everything I could possibly know about this house without going and visit this house. You guys feel comfortable with that statement? Yeah. I don't know where else I would go to learn more about it than where we've been to look right now. So now I want to go find similar properties. Okay? So I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna go search, and I'm gonna pick, am I searching for single family detached or single family attached? Am I looking for lots? Am I looking for multifamily? Depending on what property I'm trying to get value for is gonna change how I pull comps. Even if I were trying to figure out what to list this property for rent for, I go through the same process. It's just, I'm gonna look at rental residential to get rent prices instead of sales prices. In our case, this is a single family detached home, or if we were in FMLS, I would be looking at residential. And then I would be choosing single detached or single attached once I got into my search. So, well, what was our first criteria that we're looking for when we're pulling comps.
Location.
Location, okay? And coincidentally, what do you see is the first thing when you pull up the search field?
Mapping?
Mapping. Georgia MLS and FMLS both know the most important thing when you're searching is location, so they list it first, okay? And so here's where I want you guys to get used to searching for your comps, is going to mapping instead of coming down here and searching county, or instead of searching by neighborhood, okay, which you'll get someplace else in here. Subdivision right there, instead of searching by that, and the reason is, we have, actually this one might be, what's the neighborhood on this one? So, the subdivision is North Clouds, okay, on this particular one. So, we have potentially North Clouds, right? We could have North Cloud, right? We could have North Cloud. If I type in North Clouds as my subdivision, if an agent listed it as this, it's not gonna show up in my search. If they listed it as this, it's not gonna show up in my search. That could be the perfect comp for my property, but because an agent didn't put it in right, it didn't show up. So instead, use the mapping feature that's in here, and we're going to go click on my map. It's gonna bring it up, and right here in the middle, it says center map and zoom on this property. I wanna go find my property. And you see it dropped a pin on Chip Road right where the property is. And right now it's centered on my map, okay? Now, I have different tools that I can use to pick my area, okay? So if I go up here to this miles radius, I could say, if I wanted to, I'm not saying do this, but 0.5 miles. And if I click on search radius, it will draw me a circle that's 0.5 mile radius. And it puts that search area wherever the center of this map is. And I tell you that so that if you move the map at all, one is still my subject property, but if I come over here and I put 0.25 miles in and hit search, it's always gonna drop that circle in the middle of my map. Okay, did that make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna go up here. I don't like either of those search fields. So I'm gonna go click on edit, and I'm gonna delete those two fields out. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I've got my draw tools, where I can go up here and I can pick a radius, and I can click it on my property, and then I can drag and drop that wherever I want to. As soon as I let go of my mouse, that's gonna drop that. And looking at this property, you know, there may be times where I said, you know, all of this right here looked like this was my field. Even though my property's here, my comps are here, you know, I could go draw that circle, and I could pick this as my center and say, show me all of that, okay? And that may be the search area I wanna look at, and that's perfectly okay. You've gotta use your own discretion in picking it. But my favorite tool is the Polygon tool. So I'm gonna go to draw, and I'm gonna pick Polygon, and every time I click my mouse, it's going to drop me a corner. So I can come over here and I can say, show me all of this area right here. I'm interested in staying in all this stuff that's right here off of Rosser Road. okay? And I can check that however I want to, okay? So if I had some neighborhood, an intricate neighborhood, and I just wanted to include the neighborhood, I'm just gonna click all around the neighborhood. Now, any property in that neighborhood, it doesn't matter what the agent said the subdivision is, the map says the house is in there, I'm gonna get that in my data, okay? Now, where you guys are gonna screw up is you're gonna go search this, and then you're gonna go back over to your results, and you're gonna see your results don't match, okay? And the reason is you have to click this search button to lock in that criteria. So as soon as I click my search button, it says, okay, we're gonna search just that area that's in that map, okay? And now I've got it, but I ought to have more than 3 solds in that area that I just picked. That was a lot of houses, okay? Well, what do you notice that I have in here? Active, new, active. What didn't I get?
Oh, sold.
Solds. It's because my default criteria doesn't include solds. So I come in here and I go to my magnifying glass and I say, show me the actives and the solds and the pendings. And now I click search. Well, now I've got 205. Now I've got way too many properties. Why do I have so many properties in that little area? It's because it's looking at everything for the last 10 years. Okay? Do I want to see everything from the last 10 years? No. What do I want to look at?
Just what you're searching for.
So I'm going to come down here to dates criteria, and I'm going to say, show me stuff. Now, since I've got actives and pendings in here, okay, I'm going to use list date. If I were looking just at the solds, I would probably use the sold date and just look 9 months back, okay? But since I'm looking at when did they go on the market, I can either go in and pick specific dates over here, or they've got all these default ones. I'm just gonna say, show me 12 months back. Okay, does that make sense? And now I'm gonna hit search, and this is a short enough list, 21 properties. I could go through and evaluate these one-on-one, okay? But what if I got here and I still had 60 results? Am I gonna go through 60 results? No, I've got too much data now, okay? So I would come back to my search criteria, and I may wanna narrow my search down, okay? And a good example of criteria that I may wanna narrow it down by, we've already narrowed it down by location. What was my second choice? Square footage, okay? So I could say, let's filter this by square footage. Now, one thing I caution you is it gives you a low square footage and a high square footage, okay? Well, I want you to look at the results that we got. And I've got square footage in over here. What do you notice about that first property?
It's a lot. What is it?
It's a lazy agent is what it's got.
Oh.
Somebody didn't put the square footage in on the property. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 0 square foot house. Okay? Not a lot. It's a 3, 2.5 with 0 square feet. Okay? If I put a minimum square footage in there, am I gonna get that?
No.
No. Okay? So, a couple of cool things that I can do, or solutions to that, is come back here to my criteria, and I need a reminder, okay, I had 2,600 square feet. So I'll come back here, and I'll say, I wanna stay pretty close to that, okay? So maybe let's take out everything that is 3,000 square foot or larger. When I click on that, you'll see I just dropped to, now I've got 15. That took 6 away, said these 6 aren't good comps for mine. Okay? And I may have some that are smaller that I want to get rid of, but I can come in here to my search, and really quickly, even with that 0, I can find out what the square footage of it is real fast. So I'm gonna sort these by square footage. And keep in mind, anytime you go back and change your criteria, anything you've checked or unchecked, that gets reset, okay? So if I were to say, keep these 5, I can't go back and change my criteria and it filtered just those 5. It's gonna take me back to the base search. But coming back to here, I can just come over and check real quick and click on the CRS tax suite, and right there, 1452. Is that a good comp for my property?
No.
Okay. So that one is out. In here, the other thing I do, I sorted these by square footage. I can click on the top up here and sort by square footage or any other category, and I'll put it in numerical order. So for me, with us having 2,600 square feet, I kept everything under 3. So I could say, I wanna keep all of these and then go through and unclick, that's too small, that's too small, too small, too small, too small. Show me just my checked ones. And now I have a nice little field of, here's 7 properties where my most likely good comps are gonna come from, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Next place that I may want to change this in looking for my comps, come back to my criteria. What did my property have that not every property has? A basement, okay? So I may wanna come in here and go into features, because I would rather be comparing it with other properties that have a basement. So, and you'll see right here, basement is one of my drop downs. I'm just gonna say, must not have a slab or no basement. I don't care if it's finished, unfinished, I just don't want a slab and I don't want a crawl space. So it must not have either of those. I'll look at anything else. We went from 15 now down to 10. And you'll see when I go back to my when I go back to my criteria, I'm gonna search. I no longer have anything checked. Now that I added one more criteria piece, all that filtering I did went away. So I need to come back over here to my square feet again, and I want to select them all. And I'm gonna get rid of the ones that are too small. Those are gonna be my best comps for that property. And then I'm gonna go through them one at a time. And I'm gonna say, okay, now that I've narrowed it down to my most likely candidates, but what do I need to know? Well, how do they compare quality and condition wise? Does that make sense?
Does it matter that you have DeKalb and Gwinnett counties?
Potentially, it sure would, okay? That goes back to that location situation, but I may wanna go filter that because Gwinnett County schools are gonna be better schools than DeKalb County in a lot of people's opinions, okay? Somebody may love their DeKalb County school and wanna be in that DeKalb County school, but yeah, I may wanna change now that I see that, I may wanna go back to my search and pick a different area. I may need to go farther out and add a filter for the county, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want you guys getting comfortable with the process. So let's say these were all Gwinnett, just as an example. Well, now I'm gonna start going through these one at a time, and I'm gonna look at these, and I'm gonna say, okay, I've seen my house. Does this one look, feel, smell like my house? You know, it's the same size, it's got a basement, it's in the same area, you know, it's a $190,000 house. You know, this was built back in 1971, okay? This one doesn't look like my house, doesn't feel like, I don't think this is a good comp, okay? So I'm gonna unselect that one. And I'm gonna go look at the next one. Okay, this is more in line with what mine looks like and feels like. And I'm gonna make my comparisons. I will go through and I will look at the pictures, and basically what I'm doing is I wanna get to a point to where I've got a pretty narrow window, okay? I wanna find let's say 4 to 6 properties. And it could be 7, 8 if you wanted to, but I need 4 to 6 properties I'm pretty comfortable that are really, really similar to mine, that I can look at the condition, I can look at the things, and what I'm wanting to answer the question is, we're comparing A to B. A is my property, okay? Is B nicer than mine, or is it not as nice as mine? Okay? Does that make sense? And if it's nicer than mine, what does that tell me about the value of my property? It's gonna be a little bit less, okay? Or a lot less depending on how much nicer. If B is not as nice as mine, what does it tell me about my property? Mine is more, okay? And ideally what I would love to find is I wanna do my search, and if I'm going out to meet somebody at their property, have I seen the property? No, I don't know what condition I'm gonna find when I get there, okay? So I may wanna walk in the door with one property that's sold for $230. And I've got a property that sold for $235. And I've got one that sold for $250, one that sold for $252, and one that sold for $260, okay? And maybe that's too far of a spread, okay? Maybe I tighten those in a little bit, depending on the particular property. But some properties, that's gonna be a reasonable thing to walk in with, that I show up and, the property's kind of rough, okay? Well, I'm probably having conversations around here, here's what's been going on in your property. If your property had a new roof and a new AC system, had fresh paint, fresh carpet, we could possibly get this for your property. Because that's what they got, and their house had all of that. If your house were cleaned up, what's broken was fixed, and we just put a new roof on it, we may be able to do this, But in the condition it's in today, we're probably expecting to get here. I get there, everything looks great, it's average, nothing's pretty good. The roof's in good condition, but it's not a brand new roof. The AC's in good condition, but it's not a brand new AC system. The house doesn't need painted, but maybe looks a tad dated, could use a little freshening up. Well, I'm probably somewhere right here in the middle is what I can expect, okay? But I'm prepared for all those conversations. The difference is if I have been out to the property and I've visited the property, well, now I know this is where you stand, okay? And I can make that recommendation on, we went out and we saw the property with a buyer, and we're getting ready to make an offer, and it's like, oh, nicer than that, it's nicer than that, it's nicer than that. That's kind of similar to ours. Oh, that's a little bit nicer than ours. Okay, well, it's probably worth $252. They've got it listed at $255. Is a full price offer in today's market a good offer on that? Yeah, I think it's a really good offer, and here's the justification. It's nicer than this, or as nice as this, but not quite as nice as this. We probably belong right here. Okay? And that's our process. That's what pulling comps mean. Each of these is a comparable property, to our property. Does that make sense? All right. Well, what questions can I answer for you guys?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I came from that other office and it was FMLS, because that was Atlanta. I guess
Yes.
it's that Atlanta thing.
That's it.
So you reckon I should be using this tool more so?
Well,
When it counts.
And it has some really cool features to it that FMLS doesn't have or use. So like when you go back right now, if I go back to my results, I've got 5 properties pulled up, and I've been to the property, these are like the 5 most similar ones to my property, right? Well, look at what it tells me up here, you know, these were, let me get rid of that couple of oddballs. So let's say I took these 2 out. And these were gonna be my really good comps. Okay, well, list price, 340 to 390, sold price, or 340 to 435, 350 to 404. Here's the average list price, here's the average sales price. It does some of my calculations for me immediately. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so those tools make my job a whole lot easier. If I've got 6 properties that are all really similar to mine, and it says the average is 377, we're probably gonna be give or take 377. It's just a matter of how much, am I a little bit more or a little bit less? Okay? But I love the searchability. Visually, I think it's easier. I
It looks,
think
yeah,
the search
yeah.
is easier, picking out the different features. But before I let you guys go, because that was a really good question, I want to introduce you to one other concept that that I call a reverse CMA. And what I mean by that is, there's going to be times where you're going to get in here and you're going to search for a property and search for comps on a property, and you're going to struggle to find good comps for it. You're going to be like, I can't find one that's really similar to mine. Okay? But you may have a sense of, I think this house is worth 330. Okay? Just because of the experience, and well, there's that one property that's similar to mine. I can't find 5 or 6, but I can find that one property that's similar to mine. Okay? Go do like a 2-mile radius search for everything that's sold from 320 to 340. Go search the price instead of the features, and then look at those properties and say, is this property nicer than mine or not as nice? If I were in the market and I were gonna buy today, would I go buy theirs or would I go buy this one? And that will give you a really quick idea of, wow, that's nicer, that's nicer, that's nicer, that, okay, 330 is not the right price. We need to be at 310. Or you start getting, well, you know, that one's got a 2-acre lot and a fenced-in backyard and a swimming pool, and mine's got the finished full basement, you know. Which one's somebody gonna care about? You know, they may not be similar properties, but it's kind of like, okay, I can see where there's a give and take between these. Even though I can't really demonstrate it, I can't quantify it, this seems like we're in the right place. Let's let the appraiser figure it out. Okay? And then if that doesn't work for you, then talk to the seller about having a pre-listing appraisal. Have an appraiser come and tell you what the property. There's not really good data. I mean, I can show you what I found, okay? But this house really isn't like yours. This house isn't really like yours. This isn't like, we're kind of in the same ballpark. But it's not like we're in a cookie cutter neighborhood where I'm like, here's 6 properties that look just like yours that all sold for this. You know, here's what I recommend that we do. Let's have an appraiser out. You know, somebody that the banks potentially would hire. You know, this is what they do every single day. You know, we're gonna have somebody else that comes out here, and let's see what they tell us, and then let's base our listing price off of that. Okay, and you're gonna find yourselves needing to do that sometimes with very unique properties. Okay, I've got a 8-acre property with a 6-car garage. Okay, and a horse barn. How many of those properties are there going to be for me to go pull comps for? You know, we may want to, and you're selling a house like that, you know, having an appraiser come and give you some advice, because a property like that, you could be off by 100,000. You know, let's see what our appraiser's going to say. So don't be afraid to recommend that. You know, would you spend $500 to save 100,000? Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer right there. All right. Any more questions?
So, when you get your 4 to 6 properties and you're getting ready to go on your appointment, what would you print out to take?
Me personally,
Yeah.
okay, I print the listing out,
Okay.
okay? And let me tell you why. There are people out there, agents out there, that will use like RPR or Cloud CMA, and they'll use a program to create a report for them. And they'll go pull their comps inside that report and they'll put it up. But they've never opened it up. They've never looked at the pictures. They never made comparisons line by line, okay? The computer said these are the most similar properties, so I'm gonna base my CMA off of what the computer told me to do. Well, if you're gonna go that route, just print out Zillow, okay? It's the same thing, right? The reason they're hiring us is because of our expertise and our experience. So that's with some programs. Now, some programs will let you pick which properties. You do get to look at the properties and you say, I wanna include these, I wanna exclude these. And you print out a fancy report that looks beautiful, and at the end of the report, it says your home is worth 300,000. Okay? Well, I walk into your house with a fancy report that says your home's worth 300,000. And I get there, and you haven't taken the best care of the house. Okay? What am I gonna spend the next hour doing?
Trying to break it down why it's not worth 300,000.
That's exactly right. I've got a beautiful report that says your house is worth 300,000, and I'm gonna spend the next hour telling you why my report is wrong. Okay? So, there are other reports that will let you put in a price range instead of putting in a price. So your home's worth between 280 and 300,000. But I tell you, your home's worth between 280 and 300. What did you hear me say? 300. And I'm still spending an hour telling you why your home isn't worth 300,000. Okay? That's why I prefer to walk in with the listings, and let's have a conversation about how does your house compare with this property. Okay? If your house isn't as nice,
Move on.
it's
Let's
not
go.
worth what this one sold for. If it's nicer than this one, it's worth more than this one. And what I wanna do is I wanna box them in, okay? If I can get you to agree that your house is not as nice as these three, and it's nicer than these two, well then we've got this little window right here. You know, well, I think we both agree your home's worth somewhere between 420 and 435, okay? With that in mind, where did you wanna price your property at?
Right, and that gives them, like, they're in control of actually pricing.
They're the ones. I want to leave them to make the decision that I made before I ever walked through the doors. This isn't Trey telling you your home is worth it. This is the market telling you this is what your home is worth. And when they come to that realization, they own that result, okay? And it's really hard for them to say, well, yeah, I see everything says my home's worth 400, but I wanna sell it for 450. Okay, well, show me really quickly where there's any information that shows me that your home would appraise for 450, or a buyer would be willing to pay you 450. Well, it's not there, you know, I said exactly. And so, let's rethink that strategy. You know, they're just not gonna make that. You're not gonna fight a whole lot over it. We may, you know, and it's really fun. I mean, I've gone to people's houses and they were expecting to sell their house for 280, and we pulled out the comps and showed them, and their house was worth 260. They're thinking 280, walking in the door, I show them 260, and they'll be like, well, do you think we can list it for 265? Absolutely. That's a win. I love that, okay? I don't mind that at all. But they're the ones that came to that conclusion, okay? It very, very rarely is it gonna be, well, no, if you can't list it for 280, then I'm not interested in doing this one. Where you will run into issues, you'll say, well, this other agent said they'd list it for 280. And then that's where having your scripts ready, okay? And this isn't a scripts class, okay? So that's not my.
But just quickly, what would you
but
say? I wanna hear, what would you say?
I would say, well, you're probably right. I imagine there's agents out there that would list it for 300 or 350 or 400 because they want the listing. They want the marketing that comes with the listing. They're not in it to sell your house. They want the buyer calls and the buyer leads that come from having a sign in the yard, okay? And if you choose to, you're more than welcome to go hire them, and you could list your property for 280. But here's what I would ask that you do, is when they come to you 2 months later and 3 months later and tell you that you need to reduce the price,
Call me.
I want you to remember the conversation we had today, and I want you to fire them and hire the person that told you the truth the first time on what you could expect to happen. And you show that
Like,
kind of
yes.
conviction,
Yeah.
that's how much you believe in your price, then you'll have some will give in. Some are gonna go try that other route, and their pride won't let them call you
Right.
until just everything is a train wreck, but, but the idea is not, I don't want the listing in 3 months, I'll take the listing in 3 months.
Right.
The idea is I want the listing today, so the script is what's strong enough to get them to give me that listing today. So, good script?
Yes.
Alright.
So is there a script class?
Well, there's Ignite, and all of our classes are script classes, if you think of it that way. I mean, we're always talking
Yeah.
about what are the conversations to
Yeah.
have. So,
Oh, you were recording, so I could have stayed home?